Welcome, Randy, to my YouTube channel. Randy and I reconnected last summer through a Jehovah's Witness Facebook group. And Randy and I went to the same congregation I was in before my first marriage in the late 90s, early 2000s. And his dad was an elder at the congregation. And I remember him and his brother so well, and his mom and dad so fucking well. And then when we reconnected, I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to interview you. I want to do something together. And then I just got caught up in my life, and we were still talking here and there. And I just told Randy right now, this is my 21st interview, which is like, I can't believe I've done this many interviews already. So I was like, you know what? I finally want to interview you for my channel. I'm not sure what happened, but you need to come on and I would love to share your story. So again, I am just honored for you to come on the space because we have such a similar mindset, Randy. And I feel like I'm so connected to you, even though we haven't seen each other for 20 years, because we still talk to each other and still share the same kind of humor. I still remember leaving you a really long voice note when we first connected when I was in Sweden. So without further ado, Randy, I don't know your full Jehovah's Witness story besides the fact that you were a son of an elder and you had a younger brother. So if you can just share your Jehovah's Witness story, maybe you can start from when you're, because I know you weren't born in, if you can share the story of how your mom and dad got into the religion. And for those who want to know the congregation we were in the Coolidge congregation in Southfield, Michigan, right on 9 Mile and Southfield Freeway. So yeah, that's I just wanted to add that. Okay. Randy,
Absolutely.
if you can just go ahead and share your story from the very beginning.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I remember seeing your face on Facebook and I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I remember um, different people in my life, through being the Jehovah's Witness, and the energy that I felt and have felt. Um, and some people you just hope your life that you'll reconnect again with. And so I've been very grateful to have had, some of those connections. You definitely be them.
Thank
Um,
you.
of course. So we got in, I want to say I was maybe 4 or 5. Um, my younger brother was born, and my parents were studying. I remember they were studying. Um, Over time, my dad became a ministerial servant and then a elder. Um, and Over time, I became a ministerial servant as well. I was baptized at a young age, 12 or 13. I felt like I was too young to understand what the commitment of baptism was at the time. Um, and that was a difficult acknowledgement. Um, I will say that um, I from that space, that religious organization, it taught me a lot about speaking. Being able to um, speak and be able to take no. Because I remember going door to door and doing the Watchtower and Awake magazines, and people telling you know this and know that, and you learn how to take rejection. You learn how to take rejection, but you're never taught how to receive it and take it from your family. That's not something that that you're taught. Um, but yeah, I in that religion, I think just growing up, um, I can say because I'm in a space that I can take something positive, even from the most difficult spaces, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I learned public speaking at a young age, and which has, definitely helped me in a lot of spaces now as an adult. Um, but yeah, my brother and I would visit different assemblies. We'd like to go meet people. We've seen each other at assemblies. I know
Mhm.
that, Um, it's just it's it's been a journey. I think it was sometime when I was about 25 um, that that's when things started to kind of hit me. And so
I'm sorry, how old were you when you became a servant?
I want to say I was maybe, uh, shoot, I want to say maybe 15, 16. I was young. I remember I feel like I was young. And I'm sorry, it's everything is not everything. Things are a little gray. It's been a while, and a lot of experiences I had to let go. And so when I think about it, I know it was young because I also remember organizing the brothers to carry the mics through the night, like who would do what and things like that. And of course they were, grooming me for, to be an elder. That's kind of where I was
Maybe you were
leading, and that was
18. I feel like 18 is probably a better age to be a servant.
maybe I was carrying the mics at 15, 16.
Okay,
Maybe,
that was your first privilege. Okay, so
yeah,
then maybe a
yeah,
servant like a little after that. Yeah.
because I was eyes at 12, 13. So yeah, a few years later, I started carrying the mics, and then a few years after that, then yeah, it would be. So yeah, before I was 21, I know that, and I was definitely a little older, but my first privileges and everything would have been around
15, 16, carrying
15,
mics.
16. Just, yeah,
Yeah,
and so, but I had been going in field service and keeping up with hours and stuff like that.
of course. Yeah.
But I think that up though, we just in that religion, they just kind of put you on those steps, and you just kind of
You were
take it
still
from there.
at Coolidge Congregation back then
Yeah,
as a servant.
yes, I
Okay.
was.
Interesting. And I know that you said that you actually graduated high school when you were
Yeah,
16, 17.
yes.
Okay. So
And,
after high school, what did you do?
I
I'm
went
assuming that
right.
your parents wanted you to serve full time, maybe go to Bethel.
Definitely, those options were on the table. But I went to Wayne State.
Nice.
I ended up, yeah, went right to Wayne State, and initially I did. I came into school doing well, but I ended up not doing so well. Um, I acknowledge though today, it's not, it was the space I was in. I wasn't in the space of growth. I wasn't happy. But it was rough. It was rough. I think my GPA was a high like 3.8, and it just progressively went down over several years to a 1.9. So I didn't get my degree,
Wow.
and
How
it
long
was
were you going
quite
to Wayne State for?
oof. 7, 8 years.
Seven,
Yeah.
8 years, like off and on?
Yeah, off and on. But it wouldn't be longer than like maybe a few months. But I found that when going to school, that was the only place I could go to where it wasn't saturated in Jehovah's Witness. What I found was just like, um, I felt like I was on this journey and I really should have been focusing on school, but I was looking for peace because I wasn't happy. And so I'd go to school and I'd be there longer than my classes because I didn't have to go home, and deal with home. So, and not that I was, anything physically bad was happening to me. I think just was reaching a point in my life where it was just, I wasn't happy. I didn't find peace in what my life was at the
Mm.
time. And so,
And that
yeah.
was until you said 8 or 9 years. Were you still living at home during that time?
No, no, no. I was out of home by then. Like, I want to say I left home early 20s, maybe 20. And what I'm trying to do is correlate when because at one point I stopped going to the Kingdom Hall as often, and my attendance just kind of start going down. But even when I was living at home, like I would be sick, like physically sick. And I'm not, I think that it was just my body reacting to like, you don't want to be here. You don't want to go to this place. But I can acknowledge that now though. At the time it was just, I don't feel good. I was sick often. I have Crohn's disease. So, but stress attributes to flare-ups. And I didn't realize how stressed I was dealing with that whole space. But because you're told this is what life is, this is what you're supposed to do, and I just knew it wasn't for me.
And what were you going to school for?
Business, yeah, business. At the
What were you
time,
planning on doing with that?
honestly, I didn't know. Initially, I wanted to be an attorney to help people. And then I was diagnosed with Crohn's at 19. And I realized that the people that I really want to help are those in the healthcare field. And so I had a really bad experience with one of the physicians who treated me like a medical record number. And so the feeling that I felt made me want to help people in the medical field, staff and patients. And so I thought I wanted to be a nurse at one point. At my healthcare, it started off as a patient transporter. I became a nursing assistant. I worked as a trauma tech. I worked that for 8 years, but I was working while in school, going to the Kingdom Hall. It was the cycle. But the piece of the puzzle that left me kind of not knowing was the Kingdom Hall part. I knew I wasn't happy. I just didn't know what to do about it. And so, yeah, I want to say it was 19, I got Crohn's. I was working for a law firm called Bodman Law Firm downtown as a courier at the time. So I would take their red ropes or these folders that they have of different cases to different offices. And that's where I'm like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be an attorney. So I get into the medical field and meet nurses and patients. And I'll never forget the scream of a mother who lost her child. I will never forget how loud it was because I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my soul. And she couldn't be comforted. And that hurt was just so deep to me. And even still, I didn't know where my path was. So I'm meeting people. I'm like, okay, maybe X-ray, that search. But in the meantime, I'm hearing that, the system is going to end at any time, don't, put too much energy into this and that. And not necessarily from my parents, but from the religion as a whole. And, different speeches and talks on the podium, like, the system is going to end. So I'm hearing that. In the meantime, it makes it difficult to focus on your goals and know what you want. So, but through time, I realized that it was healthcare leadership for me, that's where I needed to be to make the most change and to really help people.
And what got you out of the religion? Because I don't think it was. I know that's a loaded question that we're gonna get into because
I know, right?
let's address the white horse in the room or whatever they say in here. When did you feel like you were gay? Because literally, I'm gonna be honest, like when I knew you as a teenager and like growing up, I was like, this boy is 100% gay, like 100%, not even like 10%. Like, no, he is like 100%. Like, I could totally have seen you dressed up in your mom's clothes when you were like 10, 11, 12 years old. Like, I already knew like that was the road that you were going to go on. And I'm thinking to myself, how is his parents going to like work with this kid? Okay. Okay. So
I've always
I'm so curious. Like, what
Yes.
was the situation like growing up? Because I cannot imagine your dad was okay as an elder for you to be as flamboyant as you were, because your dad was definitely not flamboyant. So I'm not sure where your charismatic self came from. Because I mean, I can definitely see that there's boys that will pick it up from their father figure or a male
Yeah.
figure that's in you, but it was like in your blood. This is the person that you
It's
were born.
me.
It was you
It's me.
100%. And I knew
Yes.
you weren't fitting into the organization at such a young age. So my question is like, what was your dad doing with that energy?
Um, I never felt growing up, I didn't feel I had a bad childhood. I didn't feel I had a bad childhood whatsoever. I don't feel that my childhood was difficult, but I do feel that um growing up, I had well, first and foremost, I've always known I was gay. Very, very early on, like first grade, kindergarten. Like I've always known. Um, and but it's one thing to always know, and then another thing to, be told need to straighten up your walk because I had a little mean and so but like that was I didn't have to be taught how to be gay. I was taught how to act straight
Mm-hmm.
because being born, I know who I am. I know who I am, and I know who I physically was, but I knew that that didn't measure up to what I should be, what other people wanted to see, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. So
Mm-hmm.
growing up, it was just walk straighter, don't have your hand like you it's all those things that you just kind of are told to do. Like, and I don't think that's parents don't like they miss that part. When you let a child just be a child, you would know everything you need to know about that child. Everything you need to know. Don't don't sway them, don't move them to act a different way, and you'll find out everything you need to know. But I was just up to act straight. And so um my parents say they didn't know. And so I'll give if that's how they feel, that's how they feel. Um, but I've had family members that have known, but
As
I
a
still
teenager
know.
and a girl in their early 20s, like I cannot have been the only girl at the college congregation that's like, this boy is 100% gay. If your parents didn't know, they were fucking like they had the biggest blinders on. Are you kidding me right now? Oh geez. All right.
It's
So
so
but
hard because
they were also telling you to act straight. I mean, they knew that there was something going on.
well, not physically saying those words, but
No,
if
but
you are
in
being
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I
walk,
completely understand what you're saying. So then
yeah.
at one point you became a servant. Were you dating any girls?
Um, I had girlfriends, but they were, as I understand, props. That's what I was taught in the gay world.
Mhm.
That they're just props for a show. They
Mhm.
were girls that I dated, but there was never any intimacy. There was not even kissing. Like
Oh.
it was, and it wasn't that there couldn't have been opportunities. It was just not what I wanted.
Mhm.
And then with the religion, you date in groups. Like you're supposed to date in groups. You don't get to date one on one with the
Right.
person that you could
Chaperone.
be marrying. You,
Right.
you, but and it doesn't stop people from doing what
Mhm.
they're gonna do. Period. But like this is how you have to be chaperoned. Have to have someone there, and with the idea being that it's to avoid anything happening. You didn't have to worry about me. There wasn't nothing happening over here. But like to them, it just was that I was a gentleman.
Yeah,
To
of course.
me, it was I'm just trying to give the look that people are expecting. Like you're a young teenage boy, people are expecting you. Oh, you got a little girlfriend? Like, where's little friend at? And so my brother never had issues. I think for me, it was my struggle had always been, I felt like I wasn't being myself. I was being who everyone wanted me to be. But the unfair part is that I hadn't spoke up about myself um, until I was 25. That's when, yeah, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I said at
Uh,
25, what happened at 25? So 25, you were a servant, you were living at home, you were still going
yeah,
to school.
mhm.
What happened at that specific time?
Yeah. So at this point, was off on my own. I um, met a guy, and we messed around. Um, but even prior to that, I'm kind of fast forward a little bit. Prior to that, I was taken to a strip club by a brother. I know, guys got real. I know, I
What? A strip club by a brother.
by a brother.
What was
Oh,
what was the purpose? What did he say as he was taking you into the strip club? Like, you need to see some titties? Like, what was it? Like, tell me. I need to hear. And what brother is this? Do I know this brother from that congregation? I need to know all this. What the heck? Okay.
you might know who it was.
All right. We'll talk about this
Yes,
later.
yes, yes. We'll set that aside for tea later. We'll set.
Okay.
So took me to a strip club. Damn, and I was 19. It was around that time. And this at this point, I don't think I had a girlfriend at the time. And I think he was in his mind, he was a older brother and he wanted to, show me some stuff because the religion doesn't show you, the stuff out there. So we went to Deja Vu off of McNichols. And I just remember being just disgusted. It was so much like I didn't want to be there. I'm like, this is not what I want. Like, and I remember getting like he paid for a lap dance for me, and I thought the girl was gonna pee on me. It was a very it was a very, very difficult, thing. So, but I saw everything. So it wasn't, no, and she was trying really hard to arouse me. It wasn't, this is not where I didn't want to be here, but I didn't speak up to that. I just kind of went along because again, I have been going along for so long, you just kind of keep going along. I can speak of it now in that space, but at the time I'm like, okay. And I don't remember it being like a whole bunch of conversation or anything. I don't remember it just being, I don't even remember it being like he felt he did something. So it made him feel good. So I was just off of that energy. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't, after that, I felt like I need to figure out if this is what I want. Because I felt when I was taken to that strip club, it was like, okay, people are watching me. I need to, I don't know, figure something out. So there was a girl that I met at a club, and we were in my car, and it just, but this was part of my journey. There was no intimacy. I wasn't aroused. And at some point you're just like, I wonder. And to have felt it for so long, you just want to find out. So at 25, after going through this and this, and it's just like, no, I just went on and went for it. Ended up being with a guy, and not once but a few times, and that's when I went I went to the brothers before going to my parents because
Wow.
you're taught like, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Went to the brothers first. As you got Vivian, you getting it at the same time. Like, yes, you're getting the real.
Wow. So what did the brothers say to you?
Yeah. So
Wait,
at this time I was in ministerial.
okay, so did you go to one brother and say, hey, we need to make a judicial committee? Like, what was the situation like? It wasn't like you just went to one brother and said, I'm gay, or did you do
No.
that?
This
Okay.
was I I told them that I'm trying to remember if it was I know I asked to meet with the brothers, like I had to meet with them.
Okay.
Um, and some of the closest brothers were in there, and I'm trying to remember, except for my dad, of course, he couldn't be in there. But he knew it was a meeting. So um, I told them because they wanted to know details. They wanted to know how I met this guy, where I met this guy, how many times was I with this guy, what did I do with this. It was very intrusive for me going and saying, I just want to speak my truth and what I went through. And the question that they asked me that I remember to this day was, because there are things that I will never forget, was are you are you still I'm trying to make sure I say it right, because it wasn't are you gay, but it was are you still going to keep on like being with guys. I'm trying to remember. I remember, then I don't. The Are you going to continue this? Are you going to continue this? And I told them I don't know.
Like, are you going
And
to are you going to continue this behavior that you've been having, like being with men? Okay.
yeah,
Got it. Got it.
yes.
Okay.
The response was I don't know. But that was the most honest response that I can give you. Again, I am 25 years old, ministerial servant. I'm just coming to the brothers. The hardest part was the questioning because it was so intrusive. It was so intrusive, and I'm already in a truth telling space. So it's like I'm gonna just tell y'all the truth. This is what you want to know, and then it was, are you going to continue this? And then my response was, I don't know. I remember it was me saying, I don't know, because it was the most honest that I could be. Because I didn't at the time, even though I knew that that was something I had never experienced before and I enjoyed it. It was at the time talking to the brothers, I didn't know because I knew what that came along with. I knew it would mean. And because I said, I don't know, that's why they disfellowshipped me. It wasn't that I said that I would. But the honest thing was I wasn't sure. But for that to be enough to disfellowship me, I'm like, okay. And so my next thing was going to my parents. And telling them was hard. Telling them was hard. And I can speak, and I'm happy that we're talking about it now because years ago, I couldn't have talked about it as clear-minded as I can today. For those that are going through stuff, it's okay to not be okay. It is okay to not be okay. And a lot of people want to make it seem like, no, 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 it's okay. It's okay for you to hurt, for you to cry. You got to get out of it though. That's the part. And I hope that, as we talk further, I'll be able to help people learn how to claw themselves out of the way out of that, because that's how it felt to me. But it was hard talking to my parents. It was hard for them to hear it, because no matter what you may know, maybe in the back of your mind, about your son being gay, it's much easier not to believe it, just not to believe it. And so they didn't, they just, um, They couldn't believe it. And at the time, I think one of the hardest things, because don't get me wrong, at that age, I had a slick mouth. I was not, I did not say things that I mean today and things that I have apologized for today. But it was after that that my father took the keys to their house from me. And that was symbolic. That was symbolic. It to me felt like, because I had my own place, but it meant you're no longer invited to me. And it may not to them have felt the same, and they, respectfully have their own thoughts about it. But to me, it was, I don't have a home and to go to. It's like it's your parents' home is, it's supposed to be a safe space. It's supposed to be a space that, like, no matter what, like if everything is down and you have nothing else to depend on, your parents have a place for you to lay your head. Like if you come into town, it's like you can lay at your parents' house. You'll be able to, rest safely, rest in a place of peace. But when that key was taken, I feel everything that felt like peace was with that as well.
So here you were at 25 years old with all this that had happened. You got disfellowshipped. The key was taken away from you. You were still living in Michigan at the time. Your brother, was he still a witness at that time as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And his experience, he actually, Ryan was the first person I told. I didn't mean it. He was the first person I told.
What was his reaction?
My brother has always been for me. At the time, Ryan didn't know what to do with what I was giving him. It was a huge. It was a shake. It was a shake to everybody, especially to me. But I had reached the point that I'm not going to lie anymore about who I am. And so, and Ryan got caught into the midst of that. And like I said, me realizing that space came along with me also having to be very aggressive with how I felt. And in turn, people were pushed away. I know my parents felt it because I don't think some of the things that they've told me they wouldn't have, because I don't specifically remember what provoked my parents to say some of the things that they've said, but they had to be pretty hurt. And so, and I'm hurt, maybe just not in my experience, but dealing with their own personal, because they care about, what everybody thinks. And of course, me being disfellowship turn around.
Can you share some of the things that they said to you?
Yeah. Oof. Oof.
Whatever it is that you want to share would be helpful, because I think like the one of the things I really want to address here is the realness of this whole situation, and to realize that it is a hurtful place, like you said, and it's not just the disfellowshipping part and the fact that our parents are not in our lives anymore. There's so many layers to it, as you know, and it's like, yeah, you lost your friends, you lost your parents, and they're hurting too, but they don't show it as much as maybe other people do. So yeah, if you want to share it, you can, but if you don't want to, I can understand as well. But I would love to hear, because your parents were very nice people, as far as I remember.
And they still are. They still are. I think my experience comes from
There's a lot of
dealing
great
with my
people
parents.
in the
Yeah,
organization, a lot of great
yeah.
people, but they're not,
And
some people are just meant to die in the organization, and that's okay. I'm not here to wake people up.
absolute
Everything has,
no.
they have a reason. So like we were talking about earlier, your parents
Yeah,
chose their happiness and we chose our happiness. It
yeah,
doesn't involve each other.
exactly. And my space is I always say, and I've said this to them, I'm happy for your happiness, because, and that's even though they can't be happy for mine. That's how I'm able to heal through a lot of it. And my parents and I had lots of conversations where apologies have been exchanged about different things. But, you know, going back to things that have been said, um, a lot of it has been addressed. Regardless of the result, it has been addressed. But at one point, a lot of these things also have been said out of anger. And I know I'm kind of cushioning it to a certain extent, but just you know, I do feel it's important for people to know that my experience was very real. And I feel like at one point my mom said, uh, she'd rather be dead than to play in the mud with me. That was rough. At one point she said that my grandmother would be disappointed in me. And my grandmother died when I was an early teenager. Her name was Dorothy Jean Miller. And she had a quote she always said, "Down not the one down today, for cheer them up in their sorrow. For this old world is a funny old world. And you could be down tomorrow." And I wear her on my neck.
Love
And
that.
so love my grandma, love her so much. Like her heart was so big, and I know in my heart my grandmother would be very proud of me today. Very proud. So but yeah, she said those things. Um and my father, I feel that um he's tough. He's tough. I shake around my father. Hey babe. Oh, thank you. I get a little nervous with my father. Thank you, my love. My husband.
Love it.
We'll get we'll get to that part next.
Nice to meet you too.
So
Wow,
um
that's a lot that you still shake around your father, or you used
woo,
to. That's crazy.
it's like it's the you're I don't know, afraid to get in trouble, afraid to his voice has a strong power to it. And also, so I I still get, just shakes. Not that he'll hit me or anything like that, but I think it's just it brings me back to that, I remember the day that the key was taken. I remember when my dad told me to take the key off the ring, and I just took it off. I remember, the my mom, her hurt and her screaming. I remember my dad called me selfish, which didn't make sense to me because I felt like I'm just telling you who I am. I'm just being honest. Like, why does that make me selfish? Because that means that you're losing something. And it's like, I am having to take the sacrifice as a man myself. Like, no, like, there's a lot of loss that even they don't fully understand that I've had to feel after leaving that religion. But I knew it was to come. I knew that, I was prepared that everything negative that happened in my life was because I left religion. Because that's kind of what we're given. Oh, you're not praying enough, or you need to go out and field service enough.
That's
Like how
that's
how
always the case. Yeah, that's always
Mhm.
the case. Always the case.
And when you don't have those things, it's like, oh, it's because I'm gay. Like, oh my gosh, just because I'm out here, and um, you think it's because of all those things, and it's just like, no, that's just life. Like, you got a speeding ticket because you were speeding. Your brakes went out because you haven't changed them. It's like, you know, you lost your job because you wasn't going on time. It's like let's bring it to the real and what is true about the situation. Um, but I'm very quick to acknowledge my blessings though, because that's one thing that I have seen tenfold is in the most difficult times, like out of nowhere, like, whoa, like, you know, a check, like, oh, whoa, for, I remember winning, a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit that I didn't even realize I was a part of, and it was $1,000 check, and it came at a time, you know, rent's due. So it was just like, oh, cushion, you know, different little things that happen. So even being out,
Sounds amazing. It's
it
funny
was like,
because I always say Jehovah's with me way more now than ever when I was in the fucking
yes,
religion.
yes, you see
And
him clearly.
it's
You
like,
see him clearly. It's like
yeah,
it, uh,
it's
in the
crazy.
smallest things. In the
Yes,
smallest,
yes.
it's like, oh, it's beautiful. I'm happy. I'm not happy. And that's why I can talk about it now like this. But it wasn't always the case. Coming out was hard. I feel like it was a few years of stop beating myself up. Like I had to stop beating myself up because I was hurting myself. I really was. Um, but yeah, California is where I moved. Um, so I came out at 25 a couple years later, and I ended up being engaged. Not to my husband now, but I was engaged to someone else. We dated and um, moved to California. Didn't get married, just engaged. Um, but I've always had to drive. I'm like, you know, I've always wanted to move away from Michigan, especially after coming out. I was just like, I can't be in this space anymore. Moved, um, and at the time, we only had an Airbnb for a month. No jobs, no place set up, an Airbnb for a month, and drive. That was it. So I started teaching bachata, merengue, and salsa at Arthur Murray School of Dance while I was waiting on the background check and stuff for Kaiser Hospital. Because I walked into the ER and I was suited and booted. I had on, you know, I was clean shaved, everything like this. And I said, hello, looking for your manager in your department because I left as a trauma tech. Oh, I didn't get that part. I was a trauma tech at Beaumont, and um, lots of experience, but it was just, you know, as a trauma tech. So I didn't have much of other experience as a nursing assistant and the transporter, but I knew I had to get a job like ASAP. So walked in there with my resume, cover letter, asked to speak to a manager. And I remember Stephanie, she worked in the department. She said my resume had just so happened to fall off her desk and she grabbed it. And that was the start of I ended up getting a phone call. We talked on the phone, great conversation, and got scheduled for an interview. Did well on the interview, and then it was 3 months. That was August that I started the process. A few months, and so December 15th is when I got hired at Kaiser of 2015, and I just moved to California a few months prior. That was a blessing because a lot of people don't get right into that hospital, as I understand. So everything happens for a reason. So at the hospital, working, great benefits, good pay, like really good. Um, but my relationship was not doing well, and I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy. Communication was horrific. It was horrific, and it just got worse. For me, communication is critical. It's absolutely critical. Even the most difficult things, communication. We got to communicate, especially we're one. or at the time trying to work on to become one. So ended up breaking up with him and ending that engagement. I'm gonna take a bite of food.
You do that.
So, sorry. It was at the time still dealing with my parents, dealing with their hurt and their frustration, and what I'm sure in their ear that they were getting that your son's going to come back and this to the religion. But I never forgot being back meant that I couldn't be myself. It meant that I'd have to lose myself for them. And my thing is, at one point do you stop living for other people? At what point do you stop holding on to the weight that becomes hurt and let it go? Because unintentionally, they were that hurt. They weren't a source of peace. And that was hard. Oh, that was so hard because your parents. So I had to find peace within myself because I couldn't talk to them. I'll say finding peace within myself was the most absolutely beautiful journey. It really was. Because I learned that what is it? It was a quote. Loneliness is painful, but solitude is growing, or basically being to yourself is a place of growth. And although loneliness is difficult, solitude and loneliness are not the same. Finding peace within myself helped me find my husband, because I wasn't looking for him to make me a peaceful person. I wasn't looking for somebody to make the peace for me, because at one point I wanted that to be my parents. So I had to find it within myself. So when we met, I didn't meet him and I didn't have to feed off of his positivity because he had peace within himself. So two peaceful people, we come together and we just get to have fun. We've been married 3 years at this point, and we've never argued. We just communicate. I've never known joy like I do now. I've never known happiness like I do now. And I never thought that I would have it, especially back then. All I knew is that I had to be true. I had to be honest. And it wasn't with true and honest with an exit door or a plan. It was just, I don't know what comes after true and honesty, but I know I just have to be true and honest. I knew it came with, strife and that I may not be happy, but I did not know I would find happiness. Maybe about a year prior to me meeting him, I took myself on a trip to Cabo. I was there for a week. It was the most beautiful experience. And I was just to myself. I went by myself for a week in Cabo. And it was self-discovery. There were some tears, all of that. But it was beautiful. And I encourage everyone, take a trip on your own. That's one of the first things I think people should do when they leave the religion.
It's huge.
Take a trip. You have to.
It's huge. I've been traveling by myself for the last 3 months. It's kind of it's life-changing. It really is. It really is. Especially when I feel like as a JW and with your parents' situation, you still have, and then being disfellowshipped, there's an abandonment issue that you have. It's
Yes.
very, very deep. And for both of us, both you and I, it's our families and the Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's two different things, which very, very little people can even comprehend that. But us as people who have faced abandonment issues from both our family and the Jehovah's Witnesses, when you actually make peace by yourself and you're not
Mm,
relying on this person is going to make me happy, like you were talking about, because and
mm.
then it goes from abandonment to codependency. And it's like
Yes.
you're dependent on this person to replace
Yes.
the relationship that you had with like the religion and the happiness
Yes.
from that. And then you're like, oh my God, if that person leaves me, oh my God, I'd rather die.
Yes.
I'd rather die. I'd rather
Wait for
die. And even if
it.
that person is not good for you, you're like, you can't leave
Uh-huh.
me. You cannot leave me because I cannot live my life without you. You're my
Uh-huh.
everything. You're my
Uh-huh.
everything. So then
Uh-huh.
then you're in unhealthy relationships because of the situation, because you do have abandonment issues. So and the codependency is so strong. So like you said, having a vacation by yourself or just living by yourself is really good, but vacationing is really, really helpful by yourself. It's really needed.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree with you.
And thank you, babe.
Giving you all the food.
I love him. um, it's like you get up when you want,
Mhm.
you walk around, you explore. I really feel I feel like going to a different country
Mhm.
is the most um
When did you go to Cabo? Talk to me a little about your healing journey because I feel like we're both in like a really good headspace. So talk to me a little bit about your healing journey and what that entailed of.
um I will say so right before Cabo, I was in a relationship. Um and it was very verbally abusive. Very verbally abusive. Um and for me, I'm just not. I don't treat myself bad. So I'm not gonna allow myself to be in the space to be treated bad, to be cussed at in public, first and foremost. Don't cuss at me. I will leave you standing where you sit. I will leave you sitting where you I will leave you where you at. It's just no, I will not. I refuse to be treated less than because I know I'm worthy and I'm worthy of nothing but happiness because I give my full love. I give my full self. I'm encouraging. I know the things that I bring to the table. So you sure ain't gonna sit up there and act crazy with me. So that person, we broke up, and a week later, that's when I took that trip because I needed to. So from my ex, we were together for about 2 years. No, about 3 years. I needed to get back to myself. But I found myself, first of all, I give people a chance until they show me otherwise. If there was attraction, and we took a couple dates, I'm like, okay. It wasn't too long after the breakup that, this other guy came about. Um, and we dated for a short time. Um, I don't even think it lasted a year. I don't even think it lasted a year. It didn't last very long. No, 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 no. It was at least close to a year because he ended up having to have hip surgery and all this stuff. It was a lot to deal with. Um, but even then, I gave him the insurance that I had through Kaiser. So everything that he needed to have done was actually paid for. So, but that was the kind of person that I am. Like, if I have it, you have it. And that's, the kind of person I am in a relationship. So him verbally talking to me like he done lost his mind caused me to say, well, you can do that just without me. And my thing is, I wish you all the best just without me. I don't need to keep in contact. I block my exes because I feel there's no need to further conversation if that chapter is closed. I had to, and when dealing with the things that I dealt through, I just had to close a chapter. That's it. But after that is when I took that trip to Cabo, and I felt like that's when I got recentered. I was there for about a week. And then getting back, so got to California 2015, started my bachelor's up again in 2017, graduated with my bachelor's in 2019, started my master's in 2020. So it was through all of this, I kept going to school. I didn't stop through, the breakup and things like that, because that's the life part. Because the date and the time is going to come no matter what. When you look at like a graduation date, that used to intimidate me. I'm like, oh, it's just so many years away. I'm like, it's going to come no matter what. So ended up going to school. In between me finishing my it was the last year of my bachelor's that Jared and I met, March 29th, 2019. And so I was finishing up my bachelor's, and that's when my life changed. Like meeting Jared, like he's walking joy to me. He's walking happiness. Like no matter where I am in the world, having him by my side is all I need. And that comes from a space of also acknowledging that prior to him, like I was okay single. Like single had never been a bad space to me because it meant time to grow, so what's your next plan? What you got going on? But to have my husband as somebody who is the yin to my yang, the beginning to the end, my good night, my good morning, all those things in one. It was for him difficult to see and hear things from my parents that caused me, to cry, that caused me hurt, which is difficult. For him, he doesn't have the great experience of in-laws and being able to have conversation with them, and that hurts for me sometimes because my parents are good people. I feel like their hearts are just a little different. I feel like they do love. I think this is just, because of the religion, in my opinion, it's just harder for right now. But I'm not. I let go of the need for their love quite a long time ago.
Which is super necessary to get into a better place, because like we talked about earlier, and I do apologize that we're interviewing during lunchtime, which is totally my bad, which this is like my available time, so I'm like, I need to speak to Randy right now. I mean, if you hold on to that hope for your parents, it's just going to leave you miserable. And then if you hold on to the hope of like trying to wake up other people, it's going to make you miserable. And if you need to work on yourself. And like we talked about earlier too, it's like your person is not like, you have to be a full cup and the other person has to be a full cup. It's not like, oh, he fills up my cup. No, like you were saying, like he was peaceful and then you were in a good place too. It's you were already working on yourself. You weren't like, oh my gosh, I just need a partner. Like, who will take me? Who will fucking take me?
I'm ready. Take me now.
Like, That
Because
desperation is not attractive, first of all,
it's
and second of all, that's not healthy for you. Like, what kind of possession of somebody else to be like, okay, now you're in a relationship, now I'm finally okay, and now I'm not going to die alone. That's like your number one concern.
and this is like, wait a minute, no, you can't take anyone with you in death.
No,
First and secondly, that it's not that other person's responsibility to make
complete
you
you. No,
who.
no, no.
Yeah, they have to. They let them. It's the both of you in completeness come together and become one, and
Exactly.
that's friend. Both of you are strong individually, so together you are rock stars. You know.
Yeah, so tell me about when your brother left, because I know at one point he left as well. When did he leave and where were you in your life?
Um. Oh. So. Um. At one point, my brother and I had to have a conversation where um, I asked him, like, do you want me in your life? Because I wasn't sure. And that's where we were. I wasn't sure. And I gave him that space respectfully. He's a grown man. He deserves that space to say, like, I know my brother is gay. I know that means that he's going to be dating guys. But I gave him the door to say, if you don't want me part of your life, just let me know. And but I was in the space of being able to cut people off. I'd rather deal with the hurt of not having someone than the pain of them in your life and they're just gnawing at your spirit and just hurting you more and more. I'd rather get comfortable with your absence. But my brother in that moment told me no. He's like, you're my brother. You'll always be my brother. And I just cried. Tears, because I had so much hurt, I had so much anger, um, and I'm in tears. He met my ex fiance. Like my brother took those steps because he tried, and I tip my hat off to him because that had to be difficult for him to try and step into a space that he wasn't familiar with, but he did it for his brother. Like I love my brother so much. I've been I've been so blessed to have a brother who loves me just for me. And his wife, I love her so much. I love them together. Uh, and the joy on his face and the way they love both me and Jared is more than I can imagine. And I promise you, I did not think I would have it. I didn't. And I was like, if I don't get it, it's okay because I'm deserving. I left the religion at a long time ago. That's how I felt. It's just like, if you don't have, but I had to get comfortable with that in that space that if everything bad happens in my life, that's what I deserve. But when I realized that's not how this goes. That's not how this goes.
When did he
And
actually end up leaving?
um Ryan's journey has been a little bit different than mine because I want to say that um there's things we just don't really go into, and I haven't really asked details about his journey with it. um I'm just happy that we're in a good space because it would be really hard without my little brother.
It's
It would.
beautiful that you actually have each other and
Yeah.
he's part of your life. And I know that he had a kid recently too,
Mhm.
which is huge for you to. I love how we're keeping this so fucking real when you're heating.
Mhm.
I fucking love it. And I know that he had a kid recently, and I know in the beginning you told me that he still involves your parents in the religion that are in the religion still. So your
Yeah.
parents are still, because this is their one shot, one opportunity, their only
That's a great.
grandchild, and
Yeah.
he's still living in Michigan, so the obligation is like, okay, you can either be in the kid's life or you don't have to be. So it's like, okay, it's up to
He gives
you.
He does give them
Yeah.
that. I don't honestly, truth be told, I don't know if I would know what to do with the space of having my parents in my life respectfully. I don't know what I would
Yeah.
do. I don't even think I'm not equipped. I'm not even equipped to have true and real conversation with them, let alone having them in my life. I don't know what to do with that. I love my parents so very much, but the distance that we have, I've grown so used to it.
It's just like you and I had both talked about, like you've released them into whatever that they need to. You've
Yes,
realized like they are adults, they chose their happiness, and you are an adult
period.
and you chose your happiness. You are different people. Just because you
Absolutely.
came out of your mom's vagina or C-section or
Okay.
whatever the case may be, does not mean that you need to have a relationship with her as an adult.
Period.
Like you've separated yourself and you've worked on yourself. We know to acknowledge that they chose their happiness, I chose mine, and I can't like fathom bringing them. I'm in the same space as you. I don't even know what to do with that. Like if my mom came back into my life or my both all my family, I'm like I don't even know what to do with that. But I'm welcoming it. Like if it happens, I'm welcoming it. But the percentage of it happening is like 1%, like less than 1%, like point. Let's actually 0.01%. How about that? 0.01%. And if that
I
0.1% happens, then I'll figure it out then. But at that point, like I'm not even gonna think about it. Like no.
but we're so much further in our thought process,
Mm,
further in our experience. We've seen so much and also realize how beautiful life can be. So
mm.
to deal and experience those people in those spaces and having them in our lives again, I don't know if, and I'm saying my mother and father in my life in the sense of acknowledging my husband because he is my life. He is my one. We're one. So we have conversation, but um it changes or the energy shifts the moment I mention Jared. Anytime I'm doing something that's involving me and my husband doing this, we're working on this, we got this going on, different things that we like right now he's in school for criminal justice, getting his bachelor's degree. So it's like we always got things going on. But that having my parents in my life fully, I don't even know. I don't know if I could even I don't know what welcoming that would look like. I
And
don't know.
let's be honest, even if you did have your parents in your life, and same with me, it's like we would have to be walking on eggshells around them. Because
That's
then
what
then
I'm saying.
then you're like, what can I share? What can I not share? Can I
And
even share this job that I got, because they're gonna be like, well, did you like, oh, I just got a raise and I had a 10% raise and
mhm.
I got an advancement in my career and whatever the case may be, even if it's like work related and so non Jehovah's Witness related. I can imagine like the mom like, oh my God, did you remember the new sister was around the corner? Or it's like, or you bought a new house and you just kind of like upgraded, this is your first
Yeah,
house or whatever the case may be. It's like, oh, you remember the new order is coming. Like, are you sure you want that's how you want to spend your money? It's like, and then they feel like that they're not like preaching to you, but they are preaching to you
they
as well.
are
Because I've
a
had
hundred
this kind
percent
of situation as well. And it's like,
always.
no, and the conversations have to be super superficial. And then even the
Mm-hmm.
superficial stuff, it's like even talking about the fucking weather, it's just like, oh, remember the new order is gonna be like the perfect weather all the time, like we were talking about earlier. It's like baby pet pandas and lions, and we're gonna have all that shit. Like, who makes up that what the paradise is gonna be like? I have no idea. That's actually a whole video I should make.
Right.
Who came up with this idea of what the paradise is gonna be like? Because that's some crazy, crazy shit.
I really feel that um they also wouldn't know what to do with being in our space.
Mm-hmm.
We don't fear of the end of the world tomorrow. We live in the life that we are blessed to have
In the current
daily.
moment. Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful, the looking at being able to look out my door and see palm trees. I'm just like, oh, this is so amazing. I was sitting watching a hummingbird the other day. Like this is like it's so beautiful, and I speak with so much joy. And unfortunately, sometimes when I'm speaking with them, it's there's no joy. There's no sometimes, sometimes we can get some laughter in, things of that sort. I just, like you said, it's superficial. I can't talk about real life with my parents.
When was the last
And
time you actually spoke to them?
my father, I was on my graduation because I finished my master's July 24th. And so that was the last time I talked to the both of them, and then my mother, just briefly through text. But even seeing the text messages is very superficial. It's just um, but it's what our relationship is. If this was anybody else, there would be no need for me to even hold on to anything. But there's something about your parents, even if it's one last sentence that you were able to express. Um, I don't want anything bad for my parents. I don't want anything bad for them, and they're happy and what happiness looks like for them. Um, I'd be doggone if somebody tried to take my happiness. So I can imagine what it feels like in their shoes to feel like their happiness will be taken away, allowing my life into their life, allowing me fully. So that's got to be like, oh no, oh no. So I leave them where they're at. I do. And I have also acknowledged that they may not ever come out of that space. Again, if they do, I don't know what to do with it. I have no idea. I don't know how to be honest and transparent with my parents. I know how to be very superficial and just keep it very, here. I can do that all day because I can do it with the people at my job. Like, if I'm working, like I don't have to. I have to be. I'm professional. I know how to be professional all the time. I don't have to. Um, it's not a space to kick back and relax and be comfortable and stuff. You're at work, and so I have that mindset when I'm talking to them. I'm being careful about what I say and how I say it. I'm not trying to get into arguments and stuff like this, so I can't be. So anybody else, I don't need you in my life, but these are my parents. So it's like I'll just keep it, as professional. And I just know that when I get on with them, that I have to be in the space to be prepared for that kind of conversation.
Mm.
And there are times that I have had to ignore the phone call because I wasn't in the space to be superficial. Because you have to be in that space. It's like sometimes I need to, and I need to be superficial to have a conversation with my parents. And maybe I won't say we're superficial because I
No,
am a
but
very,
it is just like you can't talk about real things. So what is that? I'm sorry, that's superficial.
you're right.
It is, and
But
being a
it is.
Jehovah's Witness is a superficial thing. Like we weren't talking about deep
It,
conversations about anything. You didn't
it's,
really know anyone in the congregation. Like
mm-mm.
you didn't really know people. You
You
just
knew
knew
who,
the yes,
mm-hmm,
exactly. You knew who they
mm-hmm,
were at the hall. You knew they're
exactly.
standing at the hall. You knew
Mm,
kind of like what they were doing, maybe their health issues, if they had health issues. That's all. You really didn't know anything else.
mm-mm.
You didn't really care. Maybe you knew their partner or their husband or their daughter was disfellowshipped or they had children that lived somewhere else that were not witnesses, but you didn't really know them. It's just
Mm-mm.
how it was. So with
And I,
that being said, your parents are back in Michigan. Here you are in California, and you're living this beautiful life with your husband. You just got your master's degree. You
mm,
have a great relationship with your brother, who just had a kid and is married with his wife in Michigan. What a transition. I mean, I know it's been over 10 years for you that you've been out. So it's quite a difference of where you've been. And we talked about this earlier too. The journey to healing is not linear. It's not like one thing can solve everything. There's so many different aspects of your life that led you to here. So with this, we're just gonna wrap up. I would love for you to add something. Do you feel like you want to say something that you just want to share at the end of this interview that you felt like you didn't talk about before, you wanted to add, or anything like that? Whatever's
I
calling
would.
you right now.
No, I'm trying to think.
Do you have a quote that you want to read?
So I have something called Actual Factuals that I'm writing. I haven't finished it yet, but I have 258 of them now. And when I reach 365 is when I'll be ready for them. But these are quotes that I came up with from my journey. And I think I want to leave with everybody. You have to be responsible for your part and other people's actions. I take responsibility for me. I could have spoken up sooner. I take responsibility for the way that I've vocalized things. I definitely have been more kind in my words. But I'm accountable for that. When you take that accountability, you can't be hurt by what people tell you you did because you've already acknowledged it. Once you start doing that, that's when the healing takes place. You know, grab the accountability for yourself, because once you do that, a lot of other amazing doors open.
That is so true, because if you think about it, the people that are in a bad space, they're saying that Jehovah's Witnesses made me this way. Jehovah's Witnesses made me this way. I'm depressed. I'm miserable. I'm anxious. I'm suicidal because the Jehovah's Witnesses.
You can't do it. You can't. No, take your part. And yes, pain has come from those specific people and that you experience pain with. But unless you were hog tied and wrapped up and chained to that driver's seat or that passenger seat or that person's house, you have the ability to get up and walk away. That is a choice. You get to walk away whenever. So you got to take accountability for that. No one forces you to stay in this space. You have to walk away from a space that's not good for you. You have to walk away.
I fucking love it. In fact, that's actually going to be the title of this whole video. Once you take responsibility for yourself, that's when your healing journey begins.
Yes.
I'm right there with you. It's so powerful that you said that, because I think that sentence alone, a lot of people will get angry about it, because they're like, no, the Jehovah's Witnesses, because it's so much easier to say that they are the ones, they are making me this way. And guess what that also means? Because then they can be miserable for the rest of their life, and that they feel validated for that reason. I get it. But there's another side that's like so fucking beautiful. Like paradise on earth is waiting for you.
Literally, right now.
Can we get an amen? Yes. Like seriously. Oh my God, but seriously, like paradise on earth is waiting for you. And this is so true. Right. I love how this is ending. This is so important for people to know this. Gosh, really, seriously. It hurts me sometimes when I see how much anger is still in the Jehovah's Witness community, that I shared with you, the Jehovah's Witness space is really special to me, but it's also like I just have to drop my stuff, like my interviews, and get in the space, and then I run away. I'm like, I have a really good life, dropping the information, running away. As the roosters, like doing this shit behind me.
I want people to know our smiles come from genuine happiness. This is joy. This is like, and nothing in life, you have ups and downs. That's what they're called. There's just ups and downs, and that's okay. Like, It's when you allow those ups and downs to run you, is when it becomes, it's like, but that accountability, let me tell you, nobody can tell me anything about what I've done and what I've experienced because I've already taken accountability for it. But have they taken their accountability for their actions?
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Randy. I'm gonna hit end. I love it.